So that did not work out. I put a link on the channel for the Go Live event, and I went live on it and somehow got disconnected and tried to get back in, and it would not let me reconnect, but I probably didn't know what I was doing. So hopefully if you were using the link, then you realize that that's not going to work, and hopefully this live will save, and we'll be able to just go from there. So couldn't run perfectly smoothly. Anyways, I'm just outside enjoying a beautiful evening here in the Kootenays. It's not as hot as it has been, but the nice thing is that the smoke has dissipated, and we got some rain, which made it really nice, so that we could breathe a little easier. There was some really heavy smoke in the air. I have my Kootenay Jane hat full of questions that I have to answer. But I'm going to start, I think, with some of the questions that were asked of me in the actually on the channel. So I'm just going to pop onto the channel. And there was one question that said, what was the best fish and chips place to eat in Nelson? And so because I am celiac and I cannot eat fish and chips at most restaurants, I went onto the Nelson Facebook page. I'm just going to pop on there, and I'm going to read to you what the people of Nelson have to say about it. So the majority of them are Main Street Diner, which is what I would have said before when I thought I could eat gluten. I would have eaten at the Main Street Diner for fish and chips. But now I think for the gluten-free ones, I like the Landing in Belfair. But I don't know if they have that on their regular menu. So there's a lot of people that somebody mentioned the Rose Garden, which is in Lakeside Park. And that's only open in the summer. But it's Main Street Diner all the way for most of them. Another person mentioned Woodbury Resort. And someone else mentioned the Landing. Somebody mentioned the Flying Steam Shovel in Rossland and said that they have gluten-free. But yeah, majority is saying that Main Street is consistently really good. Also says the Hume can be good. A few people mentioned the Tunaha Grill at Ainsworth Hot Springs, and I will have to say that I have never had a meal at Ainsworth Hot Spring that wasn't amazing. So anyways, I'm going to start answering some of these questions. And oh yeah, the other question was, have any festivals suffered because of finances out here that have had to close? And what I actually know is that the Caslow Jazz Fest was one that wasn't able to go this year. And I think it was the one in Cranbrook, Rock the Kootenays. I'm not exactly sure of the title. Someone can correct me on here. But I think that one also was canceled. But the other ones have seemed to go on as planned. One thing in Castle that I do really like, if you can't do Jazz Fest, is that they have the Locker Games in May. That's really fun. And they have the car show, which is really fun as well. Okay, the first question. What is the hardest part about living in the Kootenays? I would say shopping, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of boutique stores in the Kootenays, but we don't have Costco. If you're looking for those kind of amenities, we don't have that. So for the, more like if you're into a lot of amenities, that might be hard for some people. For me, I quite like it. I also live in a very rural part. I don't actually live in a town. We live on an acreage, so yeah, it's a bit of a drive every time you need to get supplies. So I would say that would be the hardest thing about living in the Kootenays. Well, that, and sometimes the winter days are short. But it's like that in most places in Canada. But we do live on the farthest eastern side of the time zone for the Pacific time. So because of that, it feels like we don't have a lot of sun. but it should help now with the change with the daylight savings time. Oh, what is the most difficult hike that you have done here? I'm going to say Silver Spray was the most difficult hike that I've done here. But that same year, Jackson and I hiked up the volcano in Guatemala, Acatenango, and that was harder, but that's not part of the Kootenays. But I did do a video about it on my channel, and it was pretty cool because that one we saw an erupting volcano, Fuego. We climbed up Acatenango and then saw, hey, I know you, the crossing point. How are you? Thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Okay, the next question, I'm just going to pull out of the hat. Oh, East Kootenays or West Kootenays? And what's the difference about them? Well, I do find that in the East Kootenays, so I lived in Kimberley for 15 years, and I found that it was easier to access a lot of parts of the backcountry because it's more of a valley. And in the West Kootenays, well, at least in the Nelson area, I know it's a little different if you get down to Grand Forks or Castlegar Trail if you go down that way. But around Nelson, the backcountry is pretty steep mountains going into the lakes. The west side, it seems a lot bigger lakes. Then on the east side of the Kootenays, there's smaller lakes to get to. So if you want to do a lot of, paddleboarding or beach activities, I think the West Kootenays is a little more fun for that. But I did really love the backcountry in the East Kootenays. So that's that question. What's the next question? Oh, what are some great adventures for people who aren't hardcore hiking enthusiasts? Well, there's lots of things you can do in the Kootenays without hiking. It's a pretty popular place to come for golf, especially in the East Kootenays. There's a lot of golf courses around Cranbrook and Kimberley and Invermere. So I think even over here, there's some pretty nice golf courses as well, like Kootenay Springs over by Crawford Bay. Belfair has a nice golf course. And then a lot of smaller courses in a lot of the little smaller communities. Like I actually really enjoy the one in New Denver and Nakusp. So golf would be one thing I would say. Another exciting activity. Well, there's a lot of, in Nelson, there's good theater, live theater, and musical performances in Nelson as well. There is... if you like zip lining, well, maybe if you don't like hiking, you might not like zip lining. But if you like adventure, you can go zip lining. You can also go cave crawling. You can do Cody Creek caves. I wouldn't really say crawling. You're more like walking through the caves. You can do a lot of paddleboarding, kayaking. If you go and stay at Kootenay Provincial Park, you can rent kayaks there to get out on the water. So that's nice. You can do a lot of camping out here. A lot of people come here to ride motorcycles because the roads are so windy and beautiful. Oh, I like this question. What's the sketchiest situation you've gotten yourself into in the backcountry? Well, one time I was out in a thunderstorm in the middle of the lake in a blow-up boat without a paddle. That was pretty sketchy because there was lightning coming down everywhere, and it was hard to get out of that. That was at White Boar Lake. That was kind of a sketchy situation. And then when we did actually get out of the water, we landed on an island area and had fallen into the water, and we were getting really cold. And so I was trying to make a fire to stay warm. And that was hard because it was pouring rain. But I did manage to do that. Another sketchy thing was I was riding my motorcycle over the Grey Creek Pass, and I ran into Well, there was a grizzly bear stood up on the road, like full on stood up, and he wasn't that far in front of me, and I was on a steep section, well, steep for me anyway, on a motorcycle, so I couldn't really like turn around very easily, and I had my little tiny 250 Honda XL, and so I was like beep beep trying to scare the bear away, and I was kind of very nervous because he was just standing there in a full yeah. So but he did run off eventually down the road. And speaking of bears, another time I was golfing and a black bear ran out at my son, who at the time was Ethan. He was only, I think, maybe 8 years old. And the bear ran right at him. And I was terrified that the bear was going to maul him, but the bear ran past him because I think her cubs were trapped on the other side. So that was a bit scary. But nothing came of that. Thank God. So yeah, I would say those are the kind of like more sketchy things that have happened. I mean, there's been other ones. I had an elk try to attack my tent once. But yeah, that's the thing about being in the mountains. Ooh, this is a good one. What is the best hot spring? Okay, there's so many good hot springs out here. Lussier Hot Spring is a natural hot springs that is now closed, but it was a really good hot spring. You would hike down into a canyon, and it was along a river, and it was really it's a really quite a hot spring. So that one's really nice. I really like also Ram Creek Warm Springs. They're not hot, but they're like hard to get to, and when you get up there, they're spectacularly beautiful. The view from the pool is like incredibly beautiful. So that would be up there, but it's not hot. It's not as hot as some. And then, well, most people I would recommend if you're coming here to do the Ainsworth hot springs, because the Ainsworth ones have caves that you can go into, and it does have the best restaurant in the area as well, and it has a beautiful hotel. And the views from that hot spring are the most beautiful views of Kootenay Lake and the mountains. So I'm going to say Ainsworth Hot Springs. But then there's Nakusp Hot Springs, and then there's Halcyon Hot Springs, and there's Halfway Hot Springs. So, okay, there's a question in the chat. What was your most favorite adventure outside the country? Yes, because I do love to travel. Well, I recently had a very interesting adventure in Puerto Vallarta at the zoo, because I went to this really strange zoo and I wasn't really sure about it at first. But I guess I think what I learned about it was that it was meant to rehabilitate tigers and animals that had been captivated illegally. And they were trying to rehabilitate them so they could go to a proper zoo. And so we went to that very strange zoo in Puerto Vallarta. I made a video about that as well. So that was pretty cool because a tiger leapt up at Sam, but I didn't catch that on film. But also a snake went slithering across my toes, and that was a little freaky. But I would say I really love the Xcaret parks in Mexico. So they're really high, but probably the best adventure was when Jackson and I hiked up Acatenango and slept overnight across from less than a kilometer away from an erupting volcano. I think that was probably that's what I would say is the best one. Okay, where would you take someone who only has one weekend to spend in the Kootenays? Well, depends where they come from. Depends what time of year. So if they came in the winter, I would take them skiing because we have amazing skiing. All the ski hills here are pretty good. I maybe am a little biased because I live in the Nelson area to Whitewater, but I do find that it gets the best consistent snow. But I wouldn't say it would be a good ski hill for people that maybe don't have a lot of experience skiing, because it is a little bit more advanced skiing. Kimberly is also where I lived and worked for a long time, so I'm biased towards that. But they have a great ski hill if you want on hill accommodation. So it's really nice to go there and be able to just like go out your door and ski. And they have a lot of accommodation on mountain. So it also has a lot of a variety of runs. So if you're a really excellent skier and you like a challenging run, you'll be surprised. People might think Kimberly doesn't offer good terrain, but it has very good terrain, nice long runs. And then a lot of grooming. So if you prefer, to ski on groomed runs, they have a lot of that. So I would definitely suggest coming to the Kootenays for skiing. There's a lot of heli skiing operating tours out of Nakusp and even out of Nelson, even out of the East Kootenays as well. Invermere is a good place to ski. Golden's really nice place to ski. Fernie is really well known. They get a lot of people from Calgary skiing in Fernie, but it's a good mountain as well. So I would say definitely come for the skiing. Fernie also offers mountain biking, which is pretty cool in the summer. They have really good mountain biking, and you can take the chairlift up. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. Depends what you're into. If you like to golf, come here to golf. If you like to ski, come here to ski. Ooh, this one. What made you move to the Kootenays, and why did you stay? Well, I moved to the Kootenays because at the time it was for work, not for me, but for my partner at the time. And so I didn't really know much about it. But the reason why I stayed, I would say, is because I have traveled across Canada from coast to coast. I lived in Newfoundland for a time, like about 4 years. And I have lived in like small amounts of time in Manitoba, and I've lived in parts of Alberta. I grew up in Alberta. So I just really found that just from traveling across the country that the Kootenays had everything that I liked, because I love outdoor adventure and I love small town. I love rural. And for me, like right now, I'm seeing all the squirrels running around in the trees right across from me. So they're distracting me. And the birds. I love nature. So it's really close to nature for me. And I was fortunate enough to find employment here. So I think maybe for some people that's not as easy, but with the world being more remote now, it's easier to find a job. So yeah, I think I just can't leave because I can't think of anywhere better to live. I love that there's so many places to explore. I watch a lot of YouTubers who travel around the world. My favorite being, well, everybody knows my favorite being Itchy Boots. And she travels around the world and you feel like you're going with her. And so I think for me, I realized, well, I can't travel around the world and take people with me, but I can travel around the Kootenays, and there's just as many cool places to see. Like I could there's hundreds of places to go here, and I'll never really run out of places to go. There's waterfalls everywhere. There's lakes, mountain lakes everywhere. Hiking trails everywhere, motorcycle adventure everywhere, skiing everywhere. And there's lots of different communities that offer lots of different culture and arts, and murals is a big thing. You can go to Nelson and see all the murals, but you can go to a lot of small towns here and see all the murals. It's very, there's a lot of art. There's cool things to see, things that are very unique about the Kootenays. There's like this glass house made out of, those were the bottles of stuff that they used for, like, I think funerals, like with embalmment. I think it's, I'm going to lose the word, embalming fluid. Anyways, I think I think it was embalming fluid bottles. And if anybody is watching or watches the replay and knows better than I do about that, then they can correct me, but I think it was embalming fluid. And that was what he made a house out of. So it's this glass house that you can go see just past Crawford Bay towards Creston. But when you, if you, and also there's ferries here. So if you like taking the ferries, you can do that. They're free ferries. There's a free ferry from on Arrow Lakes that takes you over to Revelstoke from Nakusp. And then, of course, there's the one that takes you from Belfair over to Crawford Bay. Okay, next question. What's something about living in the Kootenays that tourists don't typically see? Well, I think a lot of the backcountry. I think there's a lot that people don't know about. I find it interesting. I love going up to Gibson Lake, and it's not unheard of because it's past the old growth forest, and it's also there's a hike that is quite well known up to the Kootenay Glacier Hut, and so a lot of people know about that hut. Um, this is not a political thing, but the Trudeau family did help fund that hut because unfortunately their son, not Justin Trudeau's brother, passed away in a backcountry skiing tragedy that happened up there. And so they did help fund, there was money raised to build this cabin up there, and they did help fund that. Um, and so a lot of people know about that cabin and hike up there. Gibson's Lake is at the foot of that hiking trail. But that lake isn't very like popular for hiking around it, even though it's a nice, beautiful hike to walk around it. And every time I go up there, I think, I wonder about like the millions and thousands of people that go to Lake Louise, and we can just come up here and have this pristine mountain lake all to ourselves. So I do think that we're spoiled with having a lot of lakes where we can go and just chill out and not really see anyone else. Yeah, the backcountry isn't the same as other places. It's not like super populated. So Jackson and I recently went to Yoho National Park on August long weekend, and it was really, really busy to just even to walk up to Takaka Falls. So as beautiful as it was and as spectacular as it was, you are there with a bunch of other people, whereas here you can go to Wilson Creek Falls and you maybe only see a couple people. So I think that's something about the Kootenays. I hope I answered that question. Okay, what's the funniest thing that's happened while you were out exploring? Funniest thing. Well, I mean, it was funny when the tiger leapt up at Sam. Oh, funniest, but that wasn't in the Kootenays. I don't know. I can't. Funniest. I mean, we've had a lot of incidents with bears. I remember one time we were riding our motorcycles from Caslow to New Denver, and when we stopped at the rest stop, we didn't realize that there was a grizzly bear right next to us. I wouldn't say that was funny. Well, it was kind of funny because I wanted to take out my camera, but Sam did not appreciate that. But I wouldn't. Yeah, it's not really funny. Oh, there's got to be things that are funny. I've definitely seen something funny, but I just can't think of it. I've had like a couple of grouse like jump out in front of my motorcycle, and luckily didn't hit them. Oh, I think I know what was funny. Even just here on my deck, not long ago, I heard a bunch of rustling around in the trees, and I looked over, and there was a raccoon, and I shone my flashlight on him, and he went and didn't move. So I thought that was funny. I don't know. That's a reach, but anyways, what is somewhere that you keep going back to? Well, I talked about that earlier. I would say Gibson Lake. I go back to quite a bit, partly because it's close by. And I do love the walk around that lake. I love that lake. So I go there. I go to the old growth forest quite often because it's just an easy day. Um, I've done the Grey Creek Pass a few times. I made a video about that one. I go to Kimberley quite a bit because I still have family there. So I ski there quite a bit. I definitely go back to Whitewater to ski because I have a ski pass there. So I ski there every weekend pretty much. Yeah, I just try to get out as much as I can. I do try to pick a new spot that I haven't seen so I can go and explore new places and see new things. So, yeah, I'm going to say that. Where haven't you been yet that you really want to go in the Kootenays? I have not hiked Fisher Peak and I have not hiked Mount Loki. And I hear that they're both very, very hard to hike. So I would like to do both of those hikes. I also haven't done Woodbury Cabin yet, and I am booked to do that this month, the end of this month. Where else have I not been that I want to check out? I've done the caves, I've done the zip lines, I've done pretty much all of the hot springs. I think, yeah, it's just those big hikes that I would love to do. I haven't done yet. Okay. Which Kootenay community do you think has changed the most in the last 20 years? I think they all have. And what has changed about them? Well, I think they become a little bit more well-known, maybe. More people, I think with people working remotely, there's more people that are able to come and live here. It might have, it's kind of unfortunately changed a bit of the affordability factor. I would say like a lot of the communities used to be mining communities. And so they've changed quite a bit because they've changed from mining communities to more touristy communities. But in the last 20 years, I think they've all changed with just being busier and the weather has changed. Like the climate has changed. We're having a lot more fires every summer. So we're having, I guess to worry about smoke that we didn't really have to think about as much before. Yeah, I think I noticed a big change with Kimberley because I lived there for so long. So I would always see the changes there. But actually, I moved to Nelson during the pandemic. So I'm going to say that Nelson, when I first came, was a lot not as busy. But I think that's because it was a pandemic. Which place in the Kootenays is completely different in the winter than the summer? Well, truthfully, all of them are. They have beautiful like winter charm out here. They're very picturesque in the winter. A lot of our ski towns, like if you go to Rossland or if you go to Kimberley or Invermere, those are, I would say, probably good places to go in the winter, but they're very different in the summer. But they're still really beautiful and spectacular. So yeah, I think they're all. This whole area is 4 seasons, 4 very distinct seasons. So everything in the fall looks very beautiful. Autumn, like the winter, it's very wintry, picturesque. Summers are very scenic, and spring is just like blossoms and like wildflowers and everything. Every season has its own charm. Any recommendations for places to eat while visiting the Kootenays? 100% Ainsworth Hot Springs. It is a little pricier than other restaurants, but that one I would say if you're coming, but even actually when I was talking about fish and chips earlier, Creston has a fish and chips restaurant that everybody goes to. I think it's called Tim's Fish and Chips. Cranbrook has a couple really good restaurants. One's called The Hideout that people really like. And then they have, I haven't eaten at this one, but it was the Fire, I think it's called the Fire Hall or something. It was an old fire hall, and they made it into, I think, a brew pub or something. But that one is talked about quite a bit. I can't say personally about that one. My favorite place in Kimberley used to be the old Bowen House, but I haven't been there again since it had new owners, so I'm not 100% sure about it. I have to go back there. Oh, Invermere has the Black Forest restaurant, which is amazing and a very cool restaurant. You can go in. They wear all of the German costumes, like the girls wear all the German dresses, which is kind of funny and cool. And then they also have like this room full of birds in there, which is really cool. In Fernie, the bridge, I think it's called the dam or the bridge. No, the bridge. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the restaurant right where the bridge goes in downtown Fernie. That I really like that place. They have a good sushi restaurant in Fernie too. I think it might be the same one that they have in Nelson, Sushi Wood. Nelson has a lot of good restaurants in it. The Hume is probably my favorite one, and I like Marzano's. Trying to think about, in Roslyn, there's some good restaurants. A lot of people like the restaurant in the Josie Hotel, and there is, I just can't remember the name of it, but there's one right in Roslyn that I like. If anyone is watching or watches this and you know the name of the one in Roslyn, it's kind of like up past downtown a little bit, just up from downtown. And it's quite a popular pub that everyone goes to there. But yeah, there's lots of good food out here. What mistakes do visitors make when they come here? I think that's an interesting question. I don't really know. Mistakes do they make? Well, I would say that a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that the backcountry is like, I don't know, somehow bubble wrapped, or that it's like, that it's safer than it is. There's unfortunately been a lot of like accidents. Search and rescue is busy out here because not everybody is well equipped when they come out to explore in the backcountry. They don't really understand how dangerous it actually is, not just with wildlife, but the mountains can be dangerous. Like, you have to respect them because you can slip and fall. People can go hiking and then they don't bring enough water. They don't make any plans to, I don't know, what happens if you go hiking by yourself and you break your ankle and you're way out there and nobody knows where you are, right? So like, there's no service back there. There's a lot of area in the Kootenays that doesn't have any coverage. It's better now with satellite iPhones. You can text and stuff, and you can, I think, still call 911 for search and rescue to come find you. But I think people make the mistake of going hiking alone. They just make the mistake of not understanding maybe the area that they're going into. A lot of the trails maybe aren't quite as well maintained as what you would expect in like a national park. And so they don't really necessarily understand all the obstacles they could run into, the fact that a trail maybe hasn't been hiked in over a year, or there's overgrowth, or there's obstacles. So I think people probably don't really know exactly what they're getting into all the time. And there's not always guardrails when you go to waterfalls and things like that. So it's pretty raw nature. And there is also cougars, bears, deer. I think one of the mistakes is people think that the deer are pretty tame, but they can be quite aggressive. There's probably been more attacks by deer in the East Kootenays than other animals, I would say, especially on their dogs. Like, a lot of dogs get attacked by deer. So that's what I would say about that. Of course, I'm getting a call. Sorry. So, and then what's the most beautiful place you've ever been in the Kootenays? That is very hard because it's a toss-up for me, I think, between Ram Creek Warm Springs and Silver Spray. Buchanan Lookout, the fire lookout is good. Oh, New Denver's beautiful. I think New Denver, just walking the beach there, yeah, I would say that it's hard to pick. It's hard to pick. You just got to come here and see how beautiful everything is, or watch my YouTube channel. Then you don't have to. You don't have to do it yourself. You can just watch my YouTube channel. Have you had any wildlife encounters? Yes, I already answered that question. Many. What's the best adventure you've had there? Yeah, I don't know. I think they're all good. Some of these are kind of like the same question. So, what's your favorite Kootenay town and why? For me, it's a toss-up between New Denver and Kimberly. Has my heart. There's beautiful things about Nelson. I'm just grateful that I live outside of town because it's busy for me. I find that traffic there is doesn't flow very well. So, my favorite Kootenay town. Yeah, for me, New Denver, but I don't think that would be the answer for other people. I think other people would probably think that New Denver was too small, maybe because I don't think they even have a restaurant. They have some really cool things. They have very nice Airbnb in New Denver. They have an incredible lake view. They have the Valhalla Mountains there, and they have the whole Wilson Creek backcountry area there. Even if you drive from Nakusp to New Denver on the backcountry road there, it's spectacular. And then I just love the views in New Denver. So I think that if you're going to ask me what my favorite Kootenay town is, that would be high on the list. Yeah, but I'm also like Kimberly was a really good town to me for many years. So yeah. Is it scary living somewhere that has a lot of forest fires? It can be. So in my job, I've had to twice now, almost 3 times, but twice we've evacuated residents from long-term care. Once in 2018 in Kimberly, because we were on a evacuation alert in that town, and another time when I was working and working and staying in New Denver, we had to evacuate as well because there was a fire across the lake, and the embers came over across the lake and started a fire on the other side of town. So it was scary because they had to drive people through an area that was on fire. And so the fires are a little bit scary for us, for sure. But I don't think I think wherever you live, you're going to have things like, I know when I lived in Alberta, there was tornadoes. And, people live in places where there's risk of tsunami or risk of, hurricanes or, so I think there's always a risk everywhere that you live. And I just don't think you can live in fear all the time, but just take the necessary precautions. If there's evacuation alerts, make sure that you're aware of what you need to do and have a plan. And then be ready, always be ready, right? That's all I can say about that question. So the next question is, what's the most unique place in the area? Well, I did talk a little bit earlier about the Crawford Bay embalmment house that was made out of embalmment bottles, the glass house. It's pretty cool. It looks like a castle. So that's a pretty unique thing in the Kootenays. There's a lot of unique places in the Kootenays. Another place is Sandon. It's a ghost town. But it's got, the funny thing about Sandon is somebody who lived there, I guess, was collecting old buses, and they were from, I think, now I can be corrected because I might be wrong, Victoria or Vancouver. I'm not sure, but they were like city buses, and they were like old city buses from like maybe the 1970s or 80s or something. Um, and so then when you go to this ghost town, there's like an old train, uh, steam train there, and it's just on the track. And then there's like all of these buses, and then there's a really cool museum because that was a mining town. So there's a lot of like old mining towns. You can do a lot of museums out here. Um, Nelson has a cool museum, and interesting thing about Nelson is there's like an underground whole place. Um, yeah, so I would say there's a lot of. Oh, what else is unique? Oh, I don't know. So many art projects. Like if you just walk around towns, like if you go to Castlegar, there's like really cool sculptures and art, and they have this Millennial Park in Castlegar. They have a really cool playground that's very unique. I did a video about that. You can check that out as well. But yeah, there's lots to see in the Kootenays for sure. You won't be bored, and you will definitely find unique things. Any plans for the channel during the winter? Yeah, probably going to be some skiing on the channel during the winter. Probably going to actually, I'm going because I like to leave a little bit in the winter, mostly because it's you kind of want to go somewhere warm sometimes when winters are long. So I am planning a trip to the Baja, a motorcycle ride in the Baja. So that I'll probably film about that. And yeah, I think just kind of doing the same thing with the channel over the winter. Why did you start filming Kootenay Jane, and is that your real name? Okay, yes. Why did I start filming Kootenay Jane? Partly because I've been filming for a very long time, probably much to the dismay of my children. For years, I've been making small little videos, and so I like it so much, and so I had to put them somewhere, so I had to put them on YouTube. And then I decided that I wanted to start sharing that with people because I think I was inspired by watching Itchy Boots travel the world and how cool it was to go with her on her adventures. And so I thought, well, maybe some people would like to go through the Kootenays with me on adventures. Mine are not all motorcycle, although the motorcycle videos seem to do a lot better than the the other videos that I do. So apparently people love motorcycle videos. And yeah, so that was partly why I started doing it. And I just thought it's something that I love to do. And so I'm just going to enjoy the journey of doing it. And is that your real name? Well, my name is Heather Jane. And so Jane is part of my name. Everybody at work calls me Heather Jane. Some of my family call me Heather. Some of my coworkers call me Jane. But Kootenay Jane just seemed fitting. I think there was a channel there called Kootenay Jack or something. So I thought, well, may as well have a Kootenay Jane. Actually, the real reason it's called Kootenay Jane is because that was, I think, my Instagram handle for a long time. My favorite motorcycle ride in the Kootenays. I really love the Grey Creek Pass because it's a challenge. It's just the right amount of challenge for me. I know there's other people that ride their motorcycles here that are a lot braver than I am. I watch Lakeman ADV, which is he's out of Creston, and he is really good at riding his motorcycle, and he definitely is inspiring. But also, I would be way too scared to ride some of the stuff that he rides. So I really like that. But my favorite motorcycle ride, I would have to say, was the Western and Columbia Rail Trail, because we got to ride through the tunnels and on those trestle bridges, and it was super cool. So if you haven't seen the video that I did about that, that was one. Actually, it says, "What adventure are you most proud of?" And I would say that one was the video that I'm most proud of. I don't know if it's the adventure that I'm most proud of, but that video turned out really well, and it is one of my top videos on the channel. So yeah, that one would be good. What do you love about living here? Everything. I love living in nature. I'm in a forest. And And I just love that there's never-ending adventure. What's a place that looked easy to get to but wasn't? I mean, there are I don't know. I don't know that anything is that easy to get to. Sometimes it depends on what you're doing. Anything that's just off the highway is pretty easy to get to. Yeah, I think like Fletcher Falls is a surprise for people because it's right off the highway and it's only like a 5-minute walk, but it's really everything here is up and down, like it's very steep. So I think that surprises people because they're like, oh my goodness, that's a hard hike. And then the last question I have in here is what has surprised you the most? But I don't know what that means. What place surprised you the most? Oh, okay. What place surprised you the most? I think Nelson, when I first came here, I was surprised how welcoming it was. Sometimes I felt like in other places I've lived in the Kootenays, I felt like, you know, it was pretty hard to be considered a local. So, but I found that Nelson was a really welcoming place when I moved here in 2020. So yeah, that's all the questions I had ahead of time. So thanks to everyone who asked them. There was only a couple that asked on my channel, but some people helped me out on my own personal Facebook, and some of my family and friends helped me out as well to ask me questions. So it's too bad that the original link that I had didn't work. I will figure that out for the next one. I don't actually know what happened there. So hopefully people will still find it. Oh yeah, love you too, Crossing Point. That's awesome. So I am going to wind down, but thanks for sitting with me and listening to me ramble on for an hour almost. It's been fun, and hopefully this stays on the channel so that anyone who has questions can see it. So that is the very first live with KJ, as Crossing Point tells me, live with Kootenay Jane. So thank you for joining me today. Thank you for subscribing, sharing with your friends, and I will see you next time. Bye. If I can figure out how to stop it. Yes, I see it. End stream. That will do it. Okay. Talk to you later.